Alright, so this video is all about SEO for law firms. I'm going to show you how I took 3 pieces of content for 2 different clients and turned them into the highest driver of organic content for their unique websites. It's actually kind of simple, so if you want to take advantage, please do. Let's get into it. Alright, so first of all, let's look into the 2 clients that I'm talking about. The first one is an employment law firm, and the second one is estate law, so everything from estate planning to wills, trusts, probate, things of that nature. This is the first client, the employment law firm. This is just one piece of content. This is one blog, just to show you for reference. First published end of December, and already is, you know, it kind of went down a little bit, and then it spikes every Wednesday because apparently that's how these things work. And it's getting some pretty good traffic. And this is the second page. So these are now the top, in the top 5 performing pages for this client, and kind of the same thing. This one took a little bit longer to stabilize, but now it's kind of doing so, and it's generating around, just these 2 pages alone, around 200 to 300 every single month. So you're looking at 400 to like 600 clicks every month just from 2 pieces of content. And if you do the CPC, the cost per click, if you were to pay for that through Google, talking about a couple $1,000, probably even more, because cost per click is usually pretty high. Then we got the second client, so obviously not as glamorous as the first one, but still getting enough kind of juice from the organic traffic side of things. It's a bit of a tougher keyword, a little bit more competitive, and you're really seeing that. So here's what I did. The first, I just want to focus on the 2 blogs to not confuse anyone. The first one was around the topic of parental leave. So essentially what I did was I plugged in parental leave into SEMrush, and it gave me a whole bunch of related keywords, specifically questions. You can probably find similar questions just through a Google search without having to pay for a service. So let's take a look. Parental leave BC, that's British Columbia, Canada, for those who don't know. So here are the first few questions. I want to see if they coincide with what SEMrush gave me. How much parental leave do you get? I mean, they're all kind of semantically similar. But if you, obviously, you know, this is kind of a known trick. If you just expand some of these, you can literally take these questions. The only advantage with SEMrush, it's actually giving me the ones that have the highest volume. Sometimes these don't get a whole lot of volume. Okay, so if you were to do a keyword research on some of these, it just might come up with 0. It's just, that's how it works. So that's the advantage of SEMrush. You know, the other great thing about this is, I mentioned semantically linked or similar keywords. When you target longer phrases, it brings in a whole bunch of other keywords and potential search terms. So it's just the way that people type in questions on Google. You know, they can say, is maternity leave paid? Or they can type in, you know, maternity, you know, paid maternity leave. You know, it's just different ways that they can set up a question or a statement or a search query, so to speak. And then for the second client, and for the second blog, very similar. It was all about verbal contracts, and surprisingly, there wasn't a whole lot of content around that in BC. I'm sure it's available everywhere, but especially not a longer form piece of content that answers a whole bunch of questions. There weren't as many questions, so for this one, I actually did use ChatGPT to help me come up with a bunch of potential questions. So I do kind of want to do a little test. Let's go back to the first one, because there's a whole bunch of questions, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT for, I'm going to give it a main keyword, and I'm going to say, get me a whole bunch of questions that people might be asking on Google. So let me do that for a second. All right, so I've set up a question. It's kind of basic, so mine was a little bit more in depth. It's just for the sake of this video. Here we go. How do I apply? That's a good question. What are eligibility requirements? That's definitely, that was on there. Maybe not. I'm sure some of these are on there. Any provisions to extend? I mean, these are all great, honestly. So if there is a topic where there are some questions, you can obviously go to ChatGPT and get some additional ones. Here we go. Can both parents? I've seen that one. Can both, and it's the first one on there. So you see that? So this is a great tool to do some of that brainstorming, to take some of that brainstorming off your plate as well. So another option that works really well if you don't have SEMrush. I am using the paid version of ChatGPT, but I don't think it matters. Even if you did it with 3.5, you'll be fine. And lastly, what you would want to do is structure it this way. From a technical SEO standpoint, make sure that every question is an H2 tag. And that is simply because of indexing. And there's kind of a direct line of technical communication between your piece of content and Google. So Google does like to see structure in the H tags. So make sure that every question has that. I've also seen if you were to number them at the beginning or put a bullet point, they would show up as individual line items in the meta description. And that is a way for you to end up getting featured in those snippets at the very beginning. If it's a very specific question, then your brand can be featured as the #1 thing answering that specific question. So just gives your piece of content a little bit more leverage on Google's side. So do take advantage of that. The last thing that I will add for lawyers, if you've had years and years of experience, with clients, sitting down, talking to them, you have an advantage in the blog space because you have had so many questions posed to you. Some might be ridiculous, but if you hear them enough times, this is where you write those questions down and answer them in this blog. And the reason I say that is because some search queries won't even appear in keyword research that you do just because they are new or they might not be asked as often, but it doesn't mean they're not searched. 15% of all queries on Google every day are new. 15%. There's around 100,000 queries every single second. That means 15,000 of them. 15,000 questions and queries are brand new and have never been typed into Google. And those questions that you have from your clients sitting down with them might be part of that. And those could be kind of your next big break in SEO, so to speak. They could be a major driving factor of traffic. And I've seen that happen so many times, a piece of content that it was a throwaway. I didn't even think that it would rank, and it ended up being my #1 performer. So do take those questions, try to remember what are the top questions asked and answer them the way that you would. And that's probably the best tip that I can give at the end of this video here. All right, so that's it. If you are a law firm and you need help with SEO, feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk to you. That's the end of the video. What do you guys think? Any other things I should have discussed? Any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to talk to you guys, gals. Thanks so much. Please subscribe, like, do all that stuff. I would like it very much.